Gotta go. Yeah, I'll call you back. I'm with that Realtor lady.
Hi, I'm Michele Replogle, and I am the host of the Realtor Lady podcast. And this podcast is an exploration of the real estate industry with the people who actually work in it. I talk with real estate agents from all across the U.S. We go over the similarities and the differences in our markets, all with the idea to better inform and give people a better idea of what's going on in the real estate market as it's changing. I also talk to vendors, lenders, and people who have other roles in the real estate community, all to better give you an idea of what's going on. Think of it as kind of like real estate commentary instead of sports commentary. And if that's something that interests you and you like to follow the real estate market, tell your friends you can't talk right now because you are with the Realtor Lady. Hey, welcome to this week's episode. It is with Leslie Don Wilson of Home Smart Stars. He is in Houston, Texas, and I believe in Austin and Dallas as well. Leslie just gives such a great overview of Texas. I learned so much about builders, lending, how their infrastructure has changed with all their new construction, which is so foreign to us here in Santa Cruz. We don't have a lot of new construction, so it's super interesting. If you're curious about Texas, this is the episode for you. And as always, please like, share, review, and subscribe. It really helps my podcast. Hi, welcome back. It's Michele, the Realtor Lady, and today I am with Leslie Don Wilson from Home Smart Stars. I tripped over that, sorry. He's with the Texas Pride Realty Group in Texas, and it says Houston, but I thought you were somewhere else.
So we operate Dallas, Houston, and Austin. Our team does, which forced our broker to join the MLS and and the associations in all those cities. She's happy to do it. She's happy to do it.
Oh, okay. Okay. We are going to talk about the dark side of new construction, and we're just going to jump right in, and then we'll backtrack for some history, your career, and how we came to record this podcast. So, give me some new construction stories. You know, in Santa Cruz, we don't have a lot, so I think this will be pretty fun.
So, in Texas, we have a lot of land. We're very spread out. Houston area especially, like I can get in Houston and I can drive at a reasonable speed for over an hour and still be in Houston. That's how big the Houston metro area, the Houston area is. And if you count Houston metro area, it gets even bigger if you count the Harris County area. So we do have a lot of land. So we do tend to have a lot of new construction, although, you know, in the past 2 years with COVID and supply chain, cost of supplies have gone up. The cost of labor has gone up, and that has kind of slowed it down a little bit. When the market started really heating up, I really would kind of say to my clients, hey, listen, I know this house is going to get 20 offers, but if we go new construction, you're not going to really compete. You're going to lock that in, you're going to go. And that kind of changed over the last 2 years. We can go new construction, but let's get something that's almost finished. And here's why. Here's where the horror stories come in. You can't lock in that price anymore. When you're signing that contract to have a house built from the ground up, that price is just what they're thinking it's going to cost. And you're signing an amendment in that process that if you're not paying attention, if you don't have an agent representing you to read with you, they can adjust that price. And we've had 2 of our team members in the last year, days before closing, one of them found out the contract price was $180,000 more than what they originally signed for, and they couldn't buy it. They could not afford it anymore. And when I say $180,000 more, this was a $600,000 house that was now $780,000.
Whoa! Now, yeah, because there's not a cap in there, or could you negotiate a cap if
you're paying attention? And unfortunately, in these situations, both of these buyers put our agents down instead of having our agents go with them. They went to the builder themselves, said, this is my agent, and they thought it was just going to be easy. And we train our agents, listen, you go with them. You make this happen. You can't let them go on their own. Unfortunately, and this has happened to me, I've had clients not even tell me they're looking for a home, and suddenly I get a call from the builder, hey, the home's almost finished. Like, I have no idea. And we run into that situation where the price is not being locked in. And that is, I mean, literally these people, they're basically at this point, although they, they're not going to be homeless, but their other home is sold. They've been living in temporary arrangements, and now they have no place to go because they cannot afford the home because it's not in their price range anymore. We also have a public, what is it called? It's called a PID that communities are starting to build. And actually, there's a builder in North Texas that is being sued. This PID means that there are, beyond your taxes, they can add on to have things like roads and sidewalks and everything, like that. We had an entire community, and you probably know the builder. These people were getting their taxes. My tax is going to be $12,000. Oh no, there's an additional $40,000 you have to pay, which they would not have the money to do, which pushed them out. And by the way, there was one agent that bought in that community, but he knew to ask. But a lot of these people did not. And it became a huge issue. And the builder, of course, is being sued for it. The other thing we found out as we go further is you can't lock in a price. You really can't. Locking in a price is almost impossible. So I then started going to my clients, listen, if you want new construction, let's find something built from the ground that's already almost done or almost done. Again, if you're at the builder site and you find the home you want and it's almost done, you're not competing with 20 bids. You're not, there's none of that going on. If the home is available, it is, you can lock that down.
So your costs are kind of,
so you know what your costs are?
They're closer to being done.
You know what your costs are. And then if they're a month away from being built, they will most likely guarantee that price. But if it's 6 months, it's nothing. Another big issue is using their lender, especially if you're building from the ground up. We have one of our two of our agents right now that have properties that have been under contract to be built from the ground up, and they used a private lender, not the builder's lender. These properties went under contract last August, September, and October. They're barely framed. The builder has completed other properties that came under contract because these builders are more mortgage companies than they are builders. That's where they make their money, is they have their own mortgage company. And even though these buyers' lenders matched what the other the builder's mortgage company was doing, matched all the perks that they were giving,
right.
Their money, their bigger portion of the money is coming from the mortgage, so they're stalling on the work. In the meantime, in these three situations, the price was locked. Well, now it costs more to build these homes, so now the builder doesn't want to complete it. The builder would rather the buyer back out, and they can sell it now for another $100,000 more, or even more than that, if they complete it. So the builder is now going to lose money on these homes if the buyers hold them to the contract. And one of the contracts, and I don't know why, but one of the contracts, the builder has 2 years to finish the project. This is not a multi-million-dollar home. This is not a mansion. The price point on that was $600,000. 2 years, and I think the home's maybe 3,000 square feet. And by the way, the other things builder in Texas aren't doing, you don't get choices. You do not get choices. You go to the development. You say, I would like a home here. This is the home we're building. These are the finishes that are going to be in it. Here are the colors. You can't choose a tile, a paint color, a light fixture, not even a door handle. Everything is already pre-chosen based upon the lot you're choosing to build on. You don't get that choice. I found one builder over about 3 months ago that they will let you make some choices, but they also want you to put. This is on about a $550,000 bill. They also wanted you to put down an additional $50,000 for the option, just to have the option to make upgrades. And you would still be limited to what they can get. You would still be limited because remember, we have a supply chain issue. They're still working on a supply chain issue of getting these things in. So even then, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. They literally said, you would be able to choose from this group, and whatever we could get from that group of fixtures would be what you get. You couldn't choose specific ones from that group, which was a really weird thing. Then when you go into smaller time builders, they're being pushed out. They're struggling for money because a lot of them, they have to complete 1 or 2 homes before they can buy and build more. And we have seen a lot of them, they just have to stop building. I can show you, we actually are seeing foreclosures on incomplete construction here because they can't afford to finish.
Just lately?
Yes. Because they can't afford to complete
So-
projects.
Okay, so wow, there's a lot to unpack there because you have the way the builders are interacting with the consumer, and they're not always being on the up
No.
and up, or even finishing it. Then you have what you had talked to me earlier about how the construction itself is poor.
They are using cheaper products. There's a builder that I've worked with for many years. I've sold several of their homes, and it was a baseline product. It was an affordable build for most people. Well, they usually included wood floors or a nice tile. Now it's a very thin laminate, and you don't get the choice. It is the low level laminate. You know what I mean? It is like, hey, I'm just trying to remake a remodel, a rental property, that's durable, but no, this is a low end laminate that they're putting in almost all of their product right now. And yeah, you can go in as far after the fact and upgrade it, but the materials are cheaper. And they're short on labor, so a lot of times you will find that if you're walking throughout the build as it's going from the ground up, you can see the mistakes. I'm not a builder, but I can see the mistakes being made. I can see the framework is not touching the foundation in some spaces. Like it was swinging. There was a part that was swinging once, like, and they didn't seem to think that was an issue, and I'm like, okay. But we do see a lot of lower end materials being used, a lot of corners being cut, and part of that has to do, they're cutting those corners because of the time it's taking to build these properties. The cost of the materials keep going up, and the joke is, if you can afford a 2x4, you're a millionaire at this point. Because back in the day, 2x4 was $4. Now it's 18. So
wow.
And that's just Texas prices. I hate to imagine what California prices are, because
I don't know, but we just recently got told it was going down a bit. It actually was easing up a little bit.
Well, I'm glad it's easing up for y'all, but we are seeing such an influx of people to Texas. It is not helping. It is, and I'm glad we have the place to property build. But to give you an example, last year our property values in the Houston metro area went up over 15% on average. And our normal is 3%. That is our normal. And we do expect to see that to come back down in the next year. But literally in that time, we have people going in, 100, 200 grand over a $500,000 property that's listed. A horror story. I know an agent in Dallas. Her buyers are looking for new construction. Their budget's $1.2 million. And there's a couple of neighborhoods that they're looking in. And so she's calling the developers in those neighborhoods saying, hey, the builders know, hey, here's what we're looking for. When are you going to have something? And one of the builders says, well, we're going to have a product that's going to come available in June. We're going to probably price it about $1.2 million, but we already have 140 people ready to bid on
it. Oh my goodness.
Her buyers, their max is 1.2. That's going to go for 1.6 to 1.8 easily in that neighborhood. And by the way, by the time it's even finished, the builder may decide not even to put it out to be bid on in June. They may realize, hey, the cost of these materials may continue to go up and up and up. And in Texas, 1.4 million, you're building a McMansion at that point. In Texas, that's going to be a big house in a very nice neighborhood. We're also seeing land bids. Like developers now, going out there and you take a number to bid on a lot. We see news stories about people,
Wow.
400 people lining up to get a chance to bid on a lot in a development.
Wow. So, see, well, we don't have a lot of it here because we don't really have any land. Not only that, our resources are so limited. So you guys have water and, well, we've heard a little bit about your power issues, but you have water and infrastructure to support all this?
We do. In the Houston area, we have lots of lakes. They're really retention ponds because, we flood.
Oh.
Flooding. We only had 3 500-year floods in 5
Love
years,
it.
but that's okay. But so we do have it. It's that's not really the issue. There's plenty of space, and we just keep building out and building out and building out. And you literally, especially like if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you start in Dallas, you can go a good, 60 to 80 miles and not realize you're not in Dallas area because the building, it all blends together. You have no idea you've left one city and gone to the next. Same thing in Houston.
Wow.
We have very little, at the Houston greater metro area, as we build out now, there's no dead area where like, oh, look, just land. Now, when I go back and forth to Dallas, there are areas like that, but in this metro area, no, there's not. Although you still can see some cows just driving around, cows and horses. But I know one around the corner.
Do you have jobs to support this?
So we do. We are going heavy. Texas is going heavy after tech. We're going after all the California tech industry. We actually, who was it? I think HP left us about 6 years ago, and they just came back. They left Houston. Of course, Elon Musk is in Austin now with his Gigafactory or whatever it is, and he's about to start a whole other thing somewhere outside of Austin.
You can have him.
I don't necessarily want him. But and Dallas is the same way. All of our mayors are going after the tech industry. And listen, the complaint people have here is that you California buyers driving up those prices because they're selling properties there that are worth a lot more. They're coming here with cash in hand. And listen, our median price range here in Houston, just the median price range, not average, but the median's about a little over $300,000.
Oh wow!
And it can get you now. It's going to be in the loop in the inner city part. But even in the inner city, I can get you a home for $500,000-$600,000. And when you have someone coming from Silicon Valley or San Francisco or Los Angeles or Orange County, that is nothing. They don't even blink an eye. And I love my California buyers because I've gotten many of them. Because they're so excited. I was like, this is what you get. I was like, yeah. It was like, great. But yeah, so we see that driving up the home prices. And I pulled numbers earlier today because someone was asking. And for the last, I think it's like, 6 months, 7 months, except for December, everything went for 100% of list price or more.
Right.
Yeah, everything was going for 100% of list price. December actually had a drop. It went 98%, and part of that is that new construction. They have to close out that inventory. If they need to close out the inventory for tax reasons, so at the end of the year you can kind of get something out of that. But our issues really are is that we have people waiting for homes in new construction, and they're waiting a lot longer than they expected. And that is due to supply chain. That is due to if they didn't. I can't say that the builder's not treating them the same if they use a different lender than the builders, but we are seeing that effect. We are seeing that effect a lot.
It makes sense because that's how they would fund that next project. Now you say there's a lot of multiple offers on homes that aren't new. I mean, so what do people do? If they're kind of leery of the new construction, do they just go fight it out with the multiple offers on a kind of a better era built home, or what do they do?
Now, I'm not saying I've done this. Okay, I've done this. We cast a net. I like, I have 2 buyers I'm working with right now. They don't want to see a property until they have an offer accepted. We are writing offers sight unseen. One of
Right.
them's all cash. The buyers are all cash. And they don't want to actually waste their time to go and look unless the offer is accepted. But now we also have agents like me. When it's my listing, I'm going to ask, has your buyer been in here?
Have you seen it?
This little questionnaire. I said, no. They see the property. And that makes a difference. And honestly, we have so many investors that are coming in because Houston is affordable. It's even though our prices have gone up significantly in the past couple of years, it's still one of the most affordable metropolitan areas in the country to live in. It really is. But we have a lot of investors, and a lot of the offers we're getting are from LLCs, people, private corporations. And a lot of those small corporations are actually shell companies for things like OpenSOAR and other companies like that. So we do see quite a bit of that. And by the way, we do have sellers who are refusing to sell to those people. We do have sellers who,
if they really understand who they're selling to, but yeah.
And honestly, we had one of our agents last month. His buyer $10,000 more. And by the way, it was only like a $300,000 sale, house sale. It was in Fort Worth, and it was $10,000 more. And our agent seller says, I'm not selling to anyone unless they're going to live here. He's like, this was my first home, and I want it to be somebody else's home. I don't want it to be a rental, because we're seeing addenda to these contracts that the HOA must allow rentals. Because there was a bill, there was an investment company buying big blocks of properties and to rent them out. And then they started running into the fact that some of the HOAs have a limit to how many properties in the neighborhood can be rented out. And they had to resell them, which honestly I felt was hilarious, but
they didn't. Yeah. Do you have a lot of HOA communities?
Oh yeah. So in Houston, we don't have zoning laws. If I don't have an HOA, you can build a 7-Eleven or a strip joint or whatever it is you want next to me.
Oh, but if you're in an HOA, you're protected. That's kind of like a zoning bubble.
If you're in a historic district or an HOA, you're pretty much protected. And we have tons of HOAs. Most everywhere you go, there's an HOA. It's kind of difficult to find a property not in an HOA in the city. If you go out, even in the suburbs, almost all the suburbs have HOAs. You kind of have to go quite a bit far out to find one that's not in an HOA. It can be found, but it's pretty difficult. That's the only way we can actually kind of protect ourselves from what's being built around us. So now, if you go into North Texas, they also have HOAs, but you're more likely to find areas that don't have an HOA because they have zoning laws up there.
So you mentioned something earlier that I think I just want to touch on, just because I think it's really important as people look for properties across the nation, that they understand that your HOA is either going to absorb the infrastructure costs to keep your streets, and and you're going to see that in your HOA bill, or you're going to see it in your tax bill. The government is not going to pay for roads anymore. They're not going to pay for lights anymore. It's like that. That's an era that's going to go away, that you would actually see the city or and people don't understand that. I think there's a whole nother conversation about HOAs to be had out there. So people who are HOA adverse have to understand how things get paid for.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Texas, normally HOAs aren't responsible for the streets or the sidewalks or anything like that. However, if it's a gated community, everything behind the gate, you're responsible. That's why people's like, why is the HOA do so much more expensive behind that gate? And I was like, well, because if the city and county aren't paying behind
they own it.
Then that goes back to the PID we were talking about, the Public Improvement District, I think it was. The PID.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we're starting to see more of, is that that involves the HOA, and that the developer is pushing that off onto the buyers and kind of slipping that paperwork in there. At least that's what they were caught doing, is slipping that paperwork in there. So yeah, we are seeing more of that. Now, city of Houston and Dallas Fort Worth area, yeah, the city and county will come in and take care of the roads and things like that. The nicer the neighborhood you're in, the more likely your roads will be taken care of sooner. I can tell you I can tell you which roads, where the nicest roads are in Houston. But it really is, it's moving towards, especially in the suburbs, the PIDs, where as those new developers come up, the developer is passing that cost on because the county and city aren't. And as far as our tax rate, I mean, for us, we don't have a state income tax. So in the city of Houston, if you're in the city, your tax rate's 2.5% a year. Now, when you get outside the city, we have what we call mud districts. Now, this is where they get their water from. So like in the city, you have city water. In the suburbs, you have mud districts. But we have almost 200 and something, over 200 something mud districts in Harris County. That means all these subdivisions, many of them have their own mud districts. So that's taxed separately. So I've seen, combined with their county taxes, school tax, everything like that, I've seen tax rates total as high as 4.166%.
And what is that based on? Ours is 1%, but it's based on the purchase price. So what is that? What is that percent on?
My friend's mother sold her house that her parents bought in 1971. They gave it to her in 1978. She knocked down all but one wall in San Diego, and she sold it like 3 years ago for $2 million, although she was only being taxed on like $198,000 the entire time. So our taxes are only allowed to go up 10%. Let me clarify, our taxable value on owner-occupied properties are only allowed to go up a max of 10% per year. Guess what happened this year?
It went up 10%.
Everybody went up at least 10%, at 10%.
Because of your assessed values going up?
So assessed value. So we tax on the assessed value. And so the tax rate can go up. The assessed value can go up a max of 10%. But if it is an investment property, there is no limit on how much they can assess how much higher they can assess the value at. So owner occupied, you're capped at 10% per year. By the way, it's going to go up another 10%. And my phone has been rang off the hook when people started getting their taxes in, or their assessed values in. In the past, I'm happy to help them fight their taxes. And this year, I'm like, everybody came to us. I would quickly pull numbers like, yeah, I can't help you. As a matter of fact, if they want me to give them numbers, I'm going to make it worse for you.
I was just in a sign off and I said, I used to help people fight the taxes, the value, because every house in Santa Cruz County, just about every house is completely different than the one next door. So a lazy assessor can't go, that one sold for this, because there's no like kind. And so, we were successful. And so this last sign off I was like, yeah, don't call me. I can't help you. Because more than likely you could actually trigger something where they could find a recent sold and it could get worse. Well, that's how bad it's getting.
Texas is a non-disclosure state. We do not publish sales prices. The only way the tax assessor finds out what you pay for your property is because you told them, or your neighbor went to fight their taxes and their real estate agent gave them comps to justify, and your house was listed there. Now,
but wait, isn't it in the MLS what it's sold for?
It is, but our MLS. So if you go to the Houston Association of Realtors is actually the best MLS in the country, and I swear by it. But when you go to our website and you look at sold properties, they only show you a price range. We legally cannot publish a sales price.
Mind blown. That's insane.
So, and you will get a card in the mail from your county tax assessor when you buy your house. And they'll say, was it the neighborhood? Did you like the school? Was it the school? What was it about? Oh, and what did you pay? We always say, please don't fill that out. Please don't. Oh, no. One of my clients bought a house for $1.2 million. It was a couple of years ago. But the assessed value was $690,000. and all the homes around him were assessed high like that. Were assessed over $1 million. He's like, why is this lower? It says, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, but don't count on this.
Yeah, just keep walking.
Just
Keep
you want the
walking.
house. It may be good like that for a year or two, but they will catch up with you. But yeah, so we are a non-disclosure state, so we do not publish sales prices.
How did the appraisers do it? What's the appraisal process?
So appraisers have access to our MLS. And they can go into, a lot of times if they can't find anything, they will literally go on the tax record to see what the county tax assessor guesses the price is. But the appraisers have access to, most of our appraisers have access to the MLS. But I will say, my home county where I grew up, the county tax assessor is a member of the MLS.
Oh.
When I found that out,
Boo.
I was a little ticked off, but I was like, good for him. I like someone thinking outside the box.
There's some moxie there. Wow. So I've interviewed New Jersey, New York, Florida, Idaho, Washington, and I think somebody from Oregon. But anyway, I've interviewed everybody, but I have to say, Texas, you guys, you really are, you're rogue. You're super rogue.
Well, I will say,
pretty crazy.
I've been doing this since 2006, and I love doing it. And I especially, although I grew up in North Texas, I love Houston. Listen, we have over 400 miles of hiking and biking trails, 21 museums, and that does not include the Art Car Museum. And yes, that's the thing. You should come to our Art Car Parade, the Museum of Oddities, and the Hubcap Museum. I'm not kidding. And to give you an idea, because I'm on my bike all the time, next month I am going on a bike ride. It's all about Prince. It's going to be a night
really?
bike ride, all about Prince music. Everybody wears like we are on our bikes a lot. And we're not on our bikes as much as other cities, but we tend to make a thing out of it when we do. So I'm doing a Prince bike ride. We try to make it a theme, and a lot of these are guided tour rides as well. So we have people who will lead. We have people who keep equipment in case someone breaks down, and then we have sweepers that at the end. So if we're all going through a light, everybody gets to the light together, no matter how big the ride is. And by the way, I've been in a ride where there are over 400, 500 people riding. So,
oh my gosh, how fun!
But yeah, it's a great city to live in. And is it difficult to buy a home here right now? As far as if you're a buyer, you just have to be prepared, and you have to think outside the box. We sat down at a round table last year with 40 some odd agents around the country. What can we all do to make our buyers' offer more desirable? I will walk through that house. If I see your diploma on the wall, we're gonna mention that school in our offer. We're gonna talk about. I mean, we're gonna make that connection the best we can. I will send a pizza. Whatever your mascot was at your school, I will send you a stuffed animal. But you have to make that connection. But what I will say that what has changed over the past couple of years, and part of it is due to COVID and pricing. People are buying houses not on necessarily all the space they feel like they want. More of my buyers are buying houses on the lifestyle they want to live. It's made a big difference. It's made a big difference.
It's interesting because you and I have been a bit business the same amount of time. I wonder if we just kind of graduated to that, because I tell people, look, what you've described to me, this house that you like is not going to fit your ideal of the life that you want to live. But I also have people make a list of what they want and then tell them, be prepared to give up a few things. So think about a couple of those you're ready to just give up right now, because you are not going to get it all here. It's, it's space, it's location, it's near traffic, or it's not close to your job, good schools. I mean, whatever it is, but make sure that you're really super clear about what you've got to have, because you're going to have to give up a few things.
Well, I would say my generation, I'm Gen X, I'm 50. And the generation,
me too.
The generation before us, it seemed like it was more about the things they wanted in the house and the size of the house. My younger buyers, they're more telling me where they want to live. and they're more telling me the lifestyle they want. And even my Gen X buyers
Right.
now who are settling their lives and like the kids are gone or whatever it is, they're also doing the thing. Let me have the lifestyle I want, and they're crowding more into the city so they can be close to everything. Listen, I'm just, they're helping their kids get to school and do things like that, but they're also like, I'm going to make sure they won't want to come home.
Oh.
I'm like, let me get them through school. My mother would be happy if I moved home right now. Not going to happen, but I'm just saying, they see that they may have made their kids a little too comfortable. My sister was guilty of that with her son, made a little bit too comfortable, and they're like, let me make sure they need to have their own life ready to go. We'll have a little bit of room, but not enough to make them comfortable. But they're starting to choose themselves and what they want, and which I find completely refreshing. Like it really is it's a different way to buy a house for them than what they grew up with. Because back in the day, it was like, is it the school? How big is the house? The neighborhood? Now they're like, where is this in relation to where I want to be? How far am I
What I want to do.
And they're realizing that they're realizing the time in their car they don't get back. So, and you and I are in our car all the time,
Totally.
so we never get it back.
Yeah. I have a little bit of an expensive car. I pay for it because I need to be comfortable because,
I'm on my fourth hybrid. and listen, I'm right now.
Wait, you don't have hybrids in Texas? No way.
I do. And I'm in an oil and gas city. By the way, that's the other thing. People think Houston's all oil and gas. Do you know that's number 6 on our economy? Healthcare is number 1. Oil and gas
what do you mean?
Number 6 when it comes to jobs in Houston.
Oh.
Healthcare is number 1 in Houston. So people come here and like,
wow.
Oil and gas. And by the way, my clients are in oil and gas. They don't care that I drive a hybrid. So, and listen, I don't care they drive an F-350 because that's what I grew up with my family.
What did I grow up with? Chevys, Chevy trucks.
My family was all Ford, but no, I drive a hybrid. This year I did upgrade to an SUV hybrid because I'm like, how long am I going to make it a hybrid with another flood? I've been very lucky. But that's the other thing.
Oh, just send your flood to us.
Do you know
we need a flood.
I've only had 3 clients ever flood, and all 3 were in Harvey. When I was growing up.
Is that a place that floods a lot?
No, Harvey was the storm that flooded Houston. We got 60 inches of rain. That was our last big flood, yeah. So, but when I was growing up, when I was a kid, so I pay very close attention to not just what FEMA says the flood zones are, because I only draw those 7 to 10 years. But you need to see what's being built. If they're building a high-rise, that's a lot of cement going into the ground and a lot less place for the water to go. So as we're going through these neighborhoods, that's kind of what I look for. And I was like, telling my mother, like, yeah, because after each flood, I start calling all my clients, and be like, all right, are you okay? And at Harvey, only 3 of my clients ever flooded. And I was talking to my mother about it. And I was like, I don't know why my clients ever flooded. I mean, I pay attention. And she's like, when you were 7, our hometown flooded. The elephant got stuck in the tree, and almost probably a good half the kids you went to grade school with lost everything. Just, don't you think that was a little traumatic? And I think about it, it's like, because I really do pay real close attention. I am constantly looking at what are they building. And one of the things we are doing to combat that is that our bayous, by the way, our parks and bayous, they're designed to flood. Every park we have is designed to flood on purpose. They build it that way. But we're digging the bayous deeper and wider to make sure if we ever have a storm like that again, fewer people flood. So we are really working and spending the money to hopefully make sure that fewer people flood next time. So, but yeah.
We've had flood, earthquake, fire, tsunami. We're just like a smorgasbord of disaster here.
Okay.
But I think we'd be happy with a flood. I know. Come here. You can have it all. Well, I really want to thank you for today. And I love my podcast so much because I learned so much. It's like I get to go to class every couple weeks and just talk to people about their markets or what they've experienced. And I think you gave a great primer on what it's like to buy in Texas, but also all the little nuances that are completely foreign to us from California. So I'm gonna make sure I hype that, because I think people moving there could really use some of the information that you outlined here. So I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And by the way, Houston is not the prettiest city in Texas, and I can say this, but we're the friendliest.
Oh,
we are the friendliest city in Texas.
And then just a quick where to find you, and then we'll be putting your information in the show notes. But how does somebody find you if they want to buy it? Houston.
Or you can go to HoustonRealEstateBoss.com or HoustonREBoss.com or TexasPrideRealty.com. I can list a whole other bunch of websites. All kind of go to the same place.
I like the Houston Boss one.
Yeah, Houston Real Estate Boss. I honestly, I love answering questions, especially people who are from other states who have this idea of what Houston or Texas is about in their head. And honestly, it is probably not what you think it is. You'll be so surprised at how, especially Houston, like the diversity is unbelievable. I can go to a restaurant and hear 5 different languages being spoken around me. I don't understand one of them, but although I am going to learn Spanish this year, because I went to Mexico City last week and I had the best time, and I just feel like I need to learn Spanish now. So, and by the way, I need that in Houston because we have a large Hispanic population. It would be helpful for me.
It'd be good for us here too. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's the Realtor lady, Michele Replogle. Is there a subject you would like me to explore in real estate, or maybe about Santa Cruz? Feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear from you. Or if you'd like me to help you buy or sell real estate, that's also something that I do. You can contact me on Instagram, Live the Santa Cruz Life, or on my website, michellesellsforyou.com. That's with 1 L. My Facebook page, Live the Santa Cruz Life as well. Or check out my YouTube channel, Live the Santa Cruz Life with Michele Replogle, and my email, michelle@michellesellsforyou.com. I would love to hear from you.